Have you ever tried to convince your friend, parents, maybe your sibling of something? You give them reason after reason. You think your argument is flawless. Then they say something that stumps you and ends the argument. This is where counterarguments and rebuttals come in. To win arguments and persuade people to agree with you, you need to address the counterargument and have a rebuttal ready. So today we're going to be looking at what they are and some examples. So let's start with, what is a counterargument? A counterargument is the other side of the argument. It's going to be the opposite of your position. You're going to find the counterargument in the 4th paragraph of your essay. And in this paragraph, your job is to acknowledge the other side of the argument and to provide some evidence. The big thing you want to make sure that you avoid is agreeing with the counterargument. Do not agree with it. If you do this, it's going to make your argument sound a lot weaker. So let's look and see what a counterargument looks like. So in this example, here's a thesis statement. Homework should not be banned because it helps students prepare for the next day's lesson, provides practice of a skill, and teaches time management skills. So let's look at a counterargument. All right, so in this counterargument, it says some people think that homework takes too much time away from other activities. That right there is addressing the other side of the argument. We're saying some people, so we're already switching to other people besides myself. And we're thinking about something that would be on the other side of our argument. Then we've got our evidence. According to psychologist Stanley Hall, homework interferes with children's natural inclination towards play and free movement. Here we've got a quote that is going to be there to support this counterargument, but we need to disprove that. We don't want this paper to sound weak. We want to have a convincing argument. So to do that, we need a rebuttal. So with a rebuttal, your job is to disprove the counterargument. You need to show that the counterargument is not as strong as your argument. This is the comeback. Before a rebuttal, you need to make sure that you have some kind of transition word, like however, but, although. And this is where your third reason from your thesis statement is going to go. And that evidence that you found for the third reason is also going to need to go in the rebuttal. Let's look and see what that's going to look like. So we have the same thesis statement, and we've got that third reason, teaches time management skills. So homework should not be banned because it teaches time management skills. That's highlighted there for you. You'll see this come back in our rebuttal. The same counterargument, some people think that homework takes too much time away from other activities. And now here's our rebuttal. Although homework can be time-consuming, it teaches students to manage their time, which is an important skill. That is our rebuttal. That is where we're switching it back to our own point of view, and we're showing that we are still correct. The counterargument, don't believe it. You need to listen to our point of view. Then we need to add in our evidence. According to Andrew Zimmerman, a child psychologist, students who use time scheduling techniques to complete homework are generally more motivated and are higher achievers than those who do not use these processes. So again, we're using this evidence to help support our rebuttal. We're trying to make it stronger than the counterargument, which this one does effectively. We've got a child psychologist talking, and he's showing us that when students use time management, they're more motivated, they're higher achievers. This is a much stronger argument than the counterargument. So when you're writing this counterargument and rebuttal, you need to make sure that everything connects. You always have to check to see that your third reason, your counterargument, and your rebuttal are all connected to each other. So in the example that we just saw, that third reason was that homework teaches time management skills. You see that time is circled. That's going to be our thing that we're connecting the three together. Our counterargument, homework takes too much time away from other activities. Again, we're still talking about time. And then in the rebuttal, students who use time management skills for homework are more motivated and higher achievers. So you see how all three of those things need to connect. You can't be talking about time in one and then the moon in the other. They all need to be related to each other. Let's look at another. All right, in this thesis statement, it says, schools should have uniforms because it reduces disruptions in the classroom, creates a feeling of belonging, and saves parents money. Here's the counterargument. Critics say that uniforms are too expensive. Jacqueline Robinson, principal of Boston Green Academy, argues that families with lower incomes may struggle to afford new uniforms every year. And then in the rebuttal, however, research shows that parents actually spend less if their child's school requires uniforms. A 2016 study by the National Retail Federation found that parents spent close to $231 per child on back-to-school clothing. The average cost of school uniforms per child was $150 or less. All right, so now let's break this down. We see in the thesis statement that third reason is talking about saving parents money. That counter-argument, we're talking about money again. That on the opposite side, they're saying that uniforms are going to be too expensive. Uniforms are going to be too expensive. Then in the rebuttal, again, we're bringing up the point about money, showing that uniforms are actually cheaper. Parents are going to spend less money on uniforms than they would if they had to spend it on regular clothing. So again, we need to make sure that all three of those things are connected, which they are. And this is a great rebuttal again because it's disproving that counterargument. It's showing that uniforms are cheaper than buying regular back-to-school clothing. All right, so you've got to write a counterargument and rebuttal. How do you begin? How can I start these off? So let's look at counterargument starters. These are some examples of things that you could use to start your counterargument. Something like, some will say that my thesis is not true because, some people might say that, some will argue, those on the other side of the issue may say that. So we're making it very general. You don't want to be too specific about what's being argued on the other side or who's arguing it. You can be very generic here. But you're just addressing that somebody on the other side might have a different viewpoint than you. In the rebuttal, you always want to make sure, again, that there's a transition word like but, yet, however, nevertheless, still, and then you can include those sentence starters like that is not the case, as we see, add in your new evidence, or however, that point is not important because, or something like on the other hand. So this is just a brief overview of how to write a counterargument and rebuttal. Now is your turn to try it when you write your argumentative essay.